video is assuming that you've already installed the Northwind Traders database for Postgres. In this video, we're going to take it one more step. So now we have data that's in the database, and we can tell that again by looking at the table definitions. And as we look at them, you can see that they have actual rows that exist, except for some of the tables may not, just because of the nature of the tables. But for the ones that we would expect data in, we actually do have data. Now, in Postgres, the way that we can actually query some of these tables is we can click this SQL button up on the top. It kind of looks like a magnifying glass. And if we click there, another window will pop open. And this is what they call the query editor, or the SQL editor in the case of Postgres. Now there's two views of this editor. There's the SQL editor, and there's also a graphical query builder. Now, I'm not recommending anyone be using this yet. It's a great way, if you don't know SQL, to kind of understand it a little bit better. But if we're writing SQL queries for class, or if you're writing SQL queries in a company, they don't always come out with the most optimized queries using this tool. Of course, they do get better, but in this case, I would highly recommend avoiding using this. But it is easy. You can actually put, different tables in here, and you can add products and orders, and you can select specific things from those, and it will build everything down on the bottom of the screen here. Anyway, that said, we're not going to do that. So we're going to go back to the SQL editor. And here, as you can see, it's actually created a lot of the SQL for us. And that's basically because we selected things in this window. But not to confuse the issue, we're going to delete whatever it wrote there. And we're going to do our own query. So we're going to try to get some data from the database. So if you look to the right, we have our schema all laid out here nicely in an ER diagram. And the schema has a table defined here for customers. So customers are pretty easy to understand. So let's take a look at what's in that table. So we start with a select command, or keyword, and I like to do them in all caps. It doesn't really matter whether it's all capitalized letters or whether it's lowercase. It's just easier to see where the keywords are if you use all caps. I also like to put a space after and list out all of the items that I'm selecting in a separate row, each in a separate row. This is specifically useful for when you're starting to do projection, which we'll do in a moment. Here I'm just going to select everything using star. And I am going to select it from the customers table. Now I end all my commands with a semicolon. It's good practice. I don't think I think this would run regardless, but if I put another command after this, it may not run correctly. Actually, I know it won't run. So to execute this query, we actually just click on this arrow, this green arrow here. The first one, though, not the second. And you'll see at the bottom of your screen that we get results. So here we have all of the attributes that we expect if we are selecting all the attributes, and you can kind of cross-check and see, whether everything that's defined here in the schema is actually being produced on this side. Now let's say we don't want all of the data, because I highly recommend not using select star unless you're just testing a database, or if you're just checking your work or whatnot. It's typically in production not a good idea to use the star command. And there's a lot of reasons behind that, which I'll go into in a separate video. So here I'm going to select the company name separated with a comma. Each attribute I follow with a comma until I get to the end. So it's sort of like a comma delimited list. So I'm going to do company name, city, and country. And as you can see, that's the last attribute. So I'm not going to use a comma. And then if I hit select, if I hit the execute button, you'll see I only get 3 attributes returned, despite the fact that customers has more than 3. Now, this is a classic example of projection, whereas a select star might be selection if we're trying to relate this back to relational algebra. So we have a lot of data here still, and it's telling me at the bottom, you can see it says 91 rows were returned. So let's say I just want to know who our customers are from the USA. I would do that by adding a condition onto the end of this select statement. So I've selected 3 attributes from customers, but I only want those 3 attributes where the country is equal to, and now I need quotes, USA, end quote. Now you can see I moved the semicolon to the next line. It doesn't matter what line that semicolon falls on, as long as it's at the end of your statement, so it follows the statement itself, and it precedes or goes before the next statement. So I will hit the execute button here. It does not like double quotes. Sorry about that. Okay, we'll do single quotes. Postgres is very sensitive, apparently, to the type of quotes that you use, which is understandable, actually. So a single quote will denote the value of any kind of string or character, whereas a double quote is typically, in Postgres, is typically used to denote column or attribute names or table names or schema names. So be careful, as you can see. So we applied this this where clause or this condition, and it was where the country was the USA, and we can see we've gone from 91 down to 13 records that have been returned. Now, can I do this with all of the columns? Can I get all of the columns using a where clause as well? And the answer is yes. If I just change this to be star and execute the query again, you'll see I still get the 13 rows, but I get all of the attributes for those 13 rows instead of just the 3 that we had chosen before. Now, I'm going to put those back. I just did an undo to put them back, and I'm going to execute this again. Now, there's a few things you can do with the select command that are pretty cool. One is I can actually add text before or after the attribute values that I'm returning. So I can actually put here company name in single quotes and add the value of company name there. And when I hit the oh, I guess it doesn't like this. Maybe it's an ampersand. It doesn't like the ampersand. Maybe it's concat. There are different, every tool is different, so you just got to kind of figure it out. There it is. So it's concat in Postgres. So concat just means take each string that's in this list and append it to the next one. So in this case, we appended or prepended company name to each of the attribute values that came back. Likewise, we can do the same thing here with the city, And again, I'm putting these in quotes, single quotes, because that denotes a string. And here I have concat city with the value of city, and I end it with, I put everything in parentheses. And the reason why we do that is because concat is actually a function, a built-in function of Postgres. So now I'll just add, also add the same for country. And put it as well, put that in quotes. And when I run it, you will see that all of these, whoops, I think I forgot to put spaces there. All of these will just append to whatever output text we have. The concat can also be preceded with, or the attribute can also just be a string. So if I want to put just something to separate these, which this actually won't separate them. Let's see. Let's put customer here. And I can actually just have text and nothing more. And when I run this, it will just have an additional column that's put in. Now, if I want to give these columns names, because if you've noticed up here in the column names, they've gone from the actual column name to concat, and that's not always very readable. So we can actually do what they call is an alias on each of the attributes. So for customer, I can say, select customer as, or select this text as crazy text. And run it. And you can see that now this has been changed to say crazy text. Likewise, if I wanted to change the name of this, I could say select this as company name, select the next one as city, and the next one as country. And you can see that the column names change. So that is a basic introduction to select. Now there's a lot more to select than what we've covered here, but this is just a basic introduction. There's one other thing I do want to add, and that is that the where clause doesn't have to be one single condition. It can actually use logical operators to actually create a more complicated clause in the where section. So for example, if I wanted to say, I only want those companies that are in the United States and are in Walla Walla. Well, I can do that by saying, and, using the and operator, or and keyword, and I can say where city is equal to Walla Walla. And this will actually narrow it down from 13, I think, to just 1. I think there's only 1 in there. And there it is. So there's the one Walla Walla, the Lazy K country store. So look into this a little bit more. The select statement is very complex. At a point very soon, we're going to talk about the joins and selecting into other tables, and also putting using the in clause. So this is just our introduction, and I hope you found it useful.